As we mentioned, the number of children and families apprehended in the Yuma sector has doubled in the fiscal year to date. Agents on the ground tell us many are victims of human trafficking, an issue we explored with insight from Javier Osorio, an associate professor at the University of Arizona School of Government and Public Policy, who's an expert on criminal violence in Latin America.
There's an influx of human trafficking going on right now. Many of the explanations around this phenomenon are related to drug violence increasing in Mexico.
Why particularly, though, near San Luis, Arizona, as opposed to perhaps Nogales or Douglas?
Well, there are different reasons for that. Probably the more secured areas, given the current policies of the government that try to increase security in the border, make it more difficult to access those areas. So human traffickers try to find different routes, probably more difficult to coming in, but also less surveillance going on in those areas. So probably that is one of the reasons why we see a particular increase in this area going on right now.
People are paying top dollar to be smuggled from Central America to the United States.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is a very old activity. It's an illegal activity, very underground, so it's hard to monitor, but it's definitely an organized crime activity that moves people along the borders. So it's human trafficking, definitely.
What has the cost risen to? We've heard different numbers throughout the years, but is there a figure right now that we know of?
Well, this is an illegal activity. It's underground. It's very hard to measure the economic determinants or prices of this sector because it's covered underground. But we have heard from isolated reports or mentions in the newspapers that the prices have been going up. The prices depend pretty much on the difficulty of crossing and who sponsors the trip. And the numbers are weird or kind of elusive. I will not trust them very much, but they range from $3,000 all the way up to $20,000. The International Labor Organization a couple of years ago estimated that the human trafficking in Mexico is about 150 million, which is a lot of money, but how reliable are those numbers? That is something questionable.
Are these people who are paying the $3,000 to $20,000 also being told to request asylum or surrender, or are they hoping their money gets them into the heart of the United States?
I think the security at the border is so hard that it's the easiest or the most reliable strategy. I mean, those who can prove that are more likely to have a case on a court, on a U.S. court, to say, okay, I'm seeking asylum, these are the proofs that I have to show that I'm being harassed or persecuted or just threatened by criminal organizations. So it's a safe strategy.
Many of these immigrants who come from Central America are traversing the approximately 2,000 miles through Mexico. Is there enough pressure being put on Central American governments and Mexico to say, what are you doing to help stop this traffic before it reaches the United States?
Yes, absolutely. The U.S. government has put a lot of pressure on Mexico, and the U.S. government also made an official trip, I believe, in a few months ago. I don't remember exactly, to Central America to actually put a lot of pressure on these countries to work more on preventing the expulsion. Sending migrants to the U.S. And this works like a rainbow, like a shield, a sequence of shields. So the U.S. government is trying to put pressure on U.S. government, sorry, on Mexican government, Central American governments to do more, to be more proactive. That unfortunately opens the door to law enforcement abuse, sometimes human rights violations from government authorities in these countries against people crossing their territories.
In 2014, we saw the influx of unaccompanied minors. This time, here we are, 2018, we are seeing the family units. It seems that these spans last for maybe 6 to 8 months. Is this one winding down, or will it get worse as time continues?
Probably it will get worse. The situation in Central America is deteriorating. I mean, this is pretty much the area in the world with the highest homicide rates without being in a civil war conflict, which is pretty much primarily driven by gangs and conflict related to gangs. And the same is going on in Mexico. So the main factors are poverty, lack of opportunities, and violence that do not allow people to stay in their communities and live a profitable life. So they look for opportunities, primarily economic opportunities in other places. And since those factors are increasingly harder in these countries, it's likely to see a continuous increase in the flows of human trafficking to the U.S.
Okay. Dr. Osorio, thank you.
Thank you very much.